Hello and welcome once again to India on 99.94, the home of cricket audio. I'm Nikesh Ragani, journalist, broadcaster and commentator based in the UK. My co-host Sarah Warris of Wisden, based out in India. And just a reminder that we are your home for India content here on 99.94. You can find us on your favourite podcast apps, on YouTube, or via the 99.94 app. Sarah, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Seems like only a few moments ago that we were speaking about India
Yeah.
versus Hong Kong, but we're back here once again. The action obviously coming thick and fast in the Asia Cup. And we'll touch on India's forthcoming games in the Super Fours in just a moment. Before we do, interesting point that you made yesterday when we were recording that synopsis of the India-Hong Kong game. Prithvi Shaw's name came up, and that meant we needed to do this episode. We needed to talk about the elephant in the room. Prithvi Shaw, once hailed,
Not literally.
well, we don't want to go down that route, do we? Prithvi Shaw once hailed as the successor to Sachin Tendulkar, wasn't he? I remember, what was it, 549, something like that, as a teenager in the Harris Shield, whatever it is, a
Yeah.
ridiculous score. I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest, like, I never scored 100 till I was, probably 17, 18, 19, and even scoring like a 50 or an 80 in junior cricket here in England was a massive thing. But in India, you guys just seem to score triple centuries for fun. So to score 500 odd, and then that record was smashed a little bit down the line as well. Firstly, I remember when that milestone was achieved, and he was still a young boy at the time, and I was working for the BBC Asian Network back then, and there was a lot of interest in the story. So I managed to make contact with Pankaj Shaw, his father, who didn't speak very good English, so we did a sort of Hinglish, I suppose we call it, a mix of Hindi and English, to just sort of speak about his achievements, a little bit about his background, and there's since been something on Netflix a few years back where they kind of followed his journey into making it into professional cricket as well. So much hype around him. Scored a Test century on debut. Scored a Ranji Trophy century on debut as well. What's happened to Prithvi Shaw? Why is he not in the reckoning anymore? Why, particularly in T20 cricket? Funnily enough, we talk about the Test century and the one-day capabilities of Prithvi Shaw, but as a T20I player in the IPL, he strikes at 147. Why is he not in this side opening?
I don't know. It's, in the power play, especially yesterday, we spoke so much about KL Rahul, his strike rate in the power play, which is 115. On the other hand, Shaw has a strike rate of 156 in the power play since 2020. Yes, as you mentioned, he's not the like, he won't get 100, but even if he gives those 30 odd runs in 10, 12, 15 deliveries, that's a very good start for the others to build a foundation on. Overall, if you see his record, 151 strike rate with 850s in at an average of 26. um Probably, that average with, it's kind of like, in India, from the very start you are taught to score runs, score runs, score runs. And I'm not questioning that, because there's so much of talent that you have to score runs to stand out. Probably that mindset is still in the minds, like youngster selectors still have that mindset where, that you have to score runs to be in the team. Okay, strike rate, yeah. uh Over the years, the Indian T20I team also have, not had the best approach to T20Is. They've had a more conservative approach where, the top three scoring runs, and then, okay, there are finishers, but not Surya Kumar Yadav kind of finishers. So I think it's probably how they have approached T20Is so far also, that, has not allowed Prithvi Shaw to, like, come into the team for a longer period.
I feel it just needs somebody to back him, to be in his corner, and I don't
Hmm.
think that's the case at the moment. You talk about, he might not get you 100. Well, his top T20 score is 99. We remember that for the Delhi Capitals, of course. He's got number 100 on his back though, so he's
Yeah.
confident that he'll get there sooner or later. And look, he's a very young man. Is Prithvi Shaw still? We talk about the teenager Prithvi Shaw sort of bursting onto the scene. He's 22 years old, so he's got so much time on his side, and in years down the line, you surely can see him in this Indian setup, probably across all three formats, certainly the white ball stuff as well. There have been, however, some issues about his fitness. I mean, look, let's be honest, I'm probably not one to judge cricketers' physiques and stuff, but, you're paid to do a job, you're paid to be a professional athlete. If the management is urging you to get fitter and get in shape, you get fitter and you get in shape, and you do all you can to be in that India setup. I mean, we don't know if somebody's specifically told him that, but it doesn't appear as though that has improved. In fact, his fitness and it shows in the field as well in terms of his mobility when he's running around the field. He's often having to be hidden in the field in T20 games, which you can't really afford to do. So that's got to be one huge concern going forward, because the talent is there. He's got that star quality. He might look a lot older than 22 with the mustache now and all that, and the receding
Hmm.
hairline, but he's a young man. He's got the world at his feet. He just needs to work on his fitness, doesn't he?
Yeah, and also in the middle, he was banned for a few months because of the doping issue, and he has been involved in a few disciplinary stuff also. So I think probably Indian cricket, they kind of have been put off by those issues, because he's so talented after the 2018 under 19 World Cup, when he led India to that to the win. It was like, he it was almost guaranteed that he's the next big thing and thing. But Gill has had a more like, he has had a better start than Shaw till now. So yeah, it's probably all those issues combined, and I think that's what's going wrong, because Indian cricket have kind of stayed away from these controversies, where players have been involved in these discipline issues, where even KL Rahul was banned after the Coffee with Karan episode, uh, for no reason of his. He didn't really do much. So I think it's kind of all those issues combined. And also, like as you said about his presence in the T20I side, I hope things will change, because, backing of Dinesh Karthik, a player kind of like Prithvi Shaw, shows that, okay, India have tried to play like T20Is should be played. So I hope that continues, and in the future, like once the Rohit Sharma's, Virat Kohli's are not there, Shaw becomes a constant. And also one more point I have, I it's not really related to this topic, but over the years, that handing of the orange cap to the player who has scored the most runs in the IPL. I think it's not really the best way to judge how a player is, because KL Rahul has been winning it for the last few years, but then his strike rate is a bone of contention. Again, it's like, you are rewarding players who score runs without taking a look into the strike rate, which is the mindset like of the Indian setup of late, because it's like you have to score runs to stand out. So I hope that changes also, and the orange cap is just, okay, it's just for the openers or the top three, because realistically no one at number 6 7, they are going to win the orange cap. So again, it's a
But
very
then, yeah, but then Andre
yeah.
Russell didn't he, in 2019? So, coming in at, he didn't come in at 6 7. It was more sort of 4 5, and finishing games, and just beast mode it was from Russell that year. But I get what you mean. It's difficult though, isn't it? What do you judge it on
Yeah.
then? Do you do runs and strike rate combined and then come up with some sort of impact points, or something like that on how much you've impacted the game? There are those stats, aren't there, The TV
I
broadcasters do have those stats where they've got the most
Yeah,
valuable players in terms of the impact that they've had on particular matches, but
yeah,
it's not easy for the public to understand the algorithms and things around that. So yeah, it's probably going to stay as it is, and it looks good, doesn't it, to the public that oh, KRL's got the orange cap, or
yeah,
he's right up there in the race for the orange cap. But it's the strike rate, isn't it? And somebody like a Prithvi Shaw who's scoring those 30s, but having more of an impact in setting that platform for his side might be a more valuable option, not just for the Delhi Capitals, but for India as well in the long term. So it's an interesting point. And look, I'm a big Prithvi Shaw fan as a batter, and I don't know him really as a person, but I'm sure if there are any attitude problems, he's 22. Somebody like a Rahul Dravid, who he's worked with a lot, he was his captain with India A, of course. I'm sure they can turn that around and sort of integrate him back into the team and the team spirit and India's way of doing things because, so much talent he's got. I think those comparisons may be unfair with comparing him with Sachin when he first came because he's from Mumbai, he's short, he's a right-handed batter, all those things. He scored big runs in the Harris Shield, but he's kind of almost on that level in terms of his teenage years, in terms of what Sachin achieved through his teens. So you've got to give him that benefit of the doubt that he's got all that talent, and hopefully we get to see that on the biggest stage very soon for India. Probably not the T20 World Cup, but down the line anyway. Just before we move on to our next point, a reminder that 99.94 is more than just this podcast. Jared Kimber has got Red Inca, which focuses on deep issues within the game. There's Double Century, which looks at the history of cricket, and then loads more on the 99.94 network from various countries, including the West Indies on 99.94, best Caribbean coverage there. England as well, with Dan Norcross providing the lulls on that one, and South Africa on 99.94 as well. Sri Lanka to come soon, I believe, as well. And you can find all of those podcasts on the 99.94 app on your YouTube feed. Hopefully you've subscribed by now or via your usual podcast provider as well. Right, next point. Another one who just seems to, like Prithvi Shaw, gets the opportunities when India's first team, in inverted commas, are touring somewhere in a test series perhaps, and they're scheduling a Sri Lanka or a Zimbabwe or something like that in between, and you've got Shikhar Dhawan captaining or whoever, and they wheel out all these guys in the reserves. Prithvi Shaw has been one of them. He went to Sri Lanka, of course, for that tour, which was hit by COVID. And most recently, Sanju Samson, who did pretty well in the second ODI against Zimbabwe, 43 not out, when India really needed that 43 not out. He's never let India down, has he, Sanju Samson? Whenever he's been called up, doesn't matter the format, he's always seemed to be solid, hasn't he? He's never let the selectors down, and he must be frustrated at how his international career is going so far.
yeah. I probably think he's been a victim of his own greatness. Like, you expect so much of Samson. You expect, like, okay, he will be consistent. Probably, he's not been consistent enough in the IPL. I'm not really holding that against him because he's been very vocal about saying that he wants to be the power hitter and not lose his game, being more consistent and scoring runs. I'm not really like questioning his approach, but I'm just saying, I think in this Indian setup where consistency and scoring runs has been so important, probably a reason why Surya Kumar got into the side so late also, because uh, you want those anchors in the team. That's how India have played. So Sanju Samson, I think, again, he's just been that he's not had the best average in the IPL. Even in T20s, he averages 28 with a strike rate of 132. And it's almost like he can do it because last IPL he had an average of 40. So it's not that he can't do it. Um, he starts off well, then tapers off by the end of the season. This has happened for so many years. Like, we've seen it, okay, wow, 100, 200s in the first 2, 3 games, and then he just, falls off. So, I won't really say he's in the same bracket as Shaw, because Shaw is still very young, and there's still a lot, like, opportunities hopefully waiting for him. But with Samson, over the years, over the last 5 6 years, yeah, the talent is there, he's done well for India, but it's almost like he's unable to, live up to the expectations that we have. And even for India, I think that he's not really, he has done well. He scored those handy 40s and 50s, but not really scored that big knock, even in his limited opportunities. Like, he got a 77 recently, he got 54 recently. But, like a Gill was criticized for not. He scored, I think, 60 odd in the first ODI against West Indies. He was criticized for not getting a big score, but after that he just, capitalized on that and has been, on a roll after that. So I think that is the issue with Samson. The talent is obviously there, but it's just, and we know that he can do it because he's shown that he can have an average of 40 and a strike rate of 140 odd. But just,
He's got a very different role in the side,
yeah,
though. We're not sort of comparing him
yeah,
with Shaw or Gill because they're bat at the top of the order, but Samson, he hasn't had that defined role for India because it
yeah,
seems as though whenever he comes in, he's a replacement for somebody. He's filling a gap. So whether that be your number five is out injured, or you're unavailable, or you're picking a new side because the first team are touring somewhere, so he's always filling in for somebody. They've not given him any kind of defined role within the team, and he usually does come down in that middle order rather than at the top of the order. And it's not as easy, is it, to score those big runs because you don't get as much of an opportunity. You might need to go hard early on, so you're going to be taking more risks, or you're going to need to rebuild if they lose a few wickets early on. So I feel that it's a little bit harsh comparing him with Gill and Shaw and some of these
yeah,
guys, and people saying he's not been scoring the massive runs, because when you look at his overall average in the IPL, you're right, 132 strike rate. That is improving, you feel, with the more consistency over the last couple of years. Then you look at T20Is, for example, he's played the 15 innings, 135. So his strike rate is above that of what it is domestically, which shows, I don't know what it shows. Maybe he's just more comfortable with the role he's been given at those times when he's been playing internationals. But you feel that will improve. I mean, look, he's 27, so he's kind of reaching that
yeah,
peak period of his career where he should be playing at his most consistent. He appears to be doing domestically, like you say, the last IPL season, he was consistent through the whole season, which we haven't seen previously for an entire 14 game or 16, 17 game campaign, depending on how far they go for Rajasthan Royals. So, yeah, I suppose the conundrum is, do you play him as a keeper? Because you probably have to if you're going to put him in a squad, because there's too many out and out batters up there ahead of him at the moment. So do you have him as the second keeper? And if so, then you're looking at DK or Rishabh Pant. And I know you've sort of talked about Rishabh Pant in this format of the game, but I think they're going to stick with him. I think it's the right thing to do. He will improve his numbers in that format. And maybe it's just a case of, look, give DK this World Cup, and then we look at other options for a second keeper in the squad. And there's competition for that as well. Ishan Kishan can take the gloves. KL Rahul
yeah,
can take the gloves as well if they're going to stick with him. So they've got those reserve wicket-keeping options as well if Rishabh Pant's going to be the man in possession. So it's not going to be an easy road back for Sanju Samson, but I think the captaincy has done him the world of good as well at Rajasthan Royals. I think just like Hardik Pandya at the Gujarat Titans, I think he thrives off that, and it's just been starting to show in the
yeah,
last 12 months or so. So we'll keep an eye on his development, but I suppose the one thing it does show is that India have just got so much talent, and what Hardik Pandya said in jest, and it kind of backfired on him a little bit at the time when he made those
yeah,
comments about India could field 2 or 3 teams in white ball cricket and win any tournament in the world, and then they go on to lose a series. So the timing wasn't great, but his point stands, doesn't it? They might not win any tournament in the world, but they could compete with the best sides in the world with their third choice T20I 11, because they're all quality IPL players, and They've been there at the highest level, doing it year after year. We're just spoilt for choice at the moment, I suppose, and long may it continue. But it's harsh on some of these guys where an entire generation could go without getting an India cap or
Yeah.
getting enough caps to sort of make them an established figure in the side. Just the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah. Also, you're talking about players who might never play for India. There's Rahul Tripathi. I'm a big fan of Rahul Tripathi. No KKR angle here. He's just like, if you watch, he does very well in the power play. He does very well in the middle. He has a strike rate of 150 odd against pace. In the 155s against spin, and he's just, he can bat in any situation, and he's the kind of player who won't need 20-30 balls to get his eye in. He can go attack from the very start. He's like, one of the major reasons KKR reached the finals last year was because of Rahul Tripathi. They couldn't retain him this year, unfortunate, but he did very well in Sunrisers Hyderabad, and he scored a brilliant 50 against KKR in the opener. Uh, he's been around the Indian setup for a while. He's been getting called up for Ireland. I think he was in the Ireland squad. He was in the recent Zimbabwe series also. I'm not very sure if he'll make his debut anytime soon. He's also 31, 32. Uh, so, yeah, you said that too many talented youngsters, not only youngsters, even players in their 30s who they are
Well,
talented, but
Suryakumar
they
Yadav,
might never. Yeah,
2
yeah.
years ago, we would be sitting here talking about Suryakumar Yadav and why is he not playing for India. So, look, he got his
Hmm.
chance. Never give up. Richard Gleeson against India in the T20s in England this year. This guy is in his mid 30s, 35 years old, and he gets a call up to England, and now he's in the reckoning for the World Cup, and obviously beyond that as well, maybe for a year or so. So
Dinesh Karthik is the best example.
yeah,
He's played
that's
before,
the thing.
but
He's played
yeah,
before,
he's
but
yeah,
if you haven't played,
yeah.
you look at people like Sky. You look at Richard
Hmm.
Gleeson at 35 years old, getting his first call up for England,
Yeah.
and then getting a chance to play in the T20 World Cup. Never give up on your dreams, folks. I'm in my mid 30s. I suppose I have to play for England. I haven't got an Indian passport, but maybe I shouldn't give up on my dreams. I should get down to the nets and get playing some club cricket on Saturdays. And you never know, that dream might come true one day. Let's wait and see. But
Hopefully,
look,
yeah.
there's at the end of it, there's so much talent in India, and it's great to see. But it's harsh on some of these guys who, in previous generations, would have probably played international cricket without a doubt, but it's just not going to be the case. It's a bit like Australia in the late 90s and early 2000s, and
Yeah.
there was a whole generation of Aussie players who were brilliant domestic players and just didn't get a look in or got the odd cap, and that was about it. Even Mike Hussey was one of the other examples from
Hmm.
Australia who made his debut in his 30s, played till his late 30s, ended up having a very good Australian career, but didn't get the amount of matches that somebody of his talent should have. Brad Hodge, Stuart Law, there's so many from that generation. So it's a similar thing with India at the moment. And we'll look back in 10, 15 years and say, how did this guy not play for India? But it is what
Also,
it is.
just yeah, one more thing is, when these opportunities do come calling, I just hope the selectors, make the right calls and not just hand out caps or give call ups to players based on their past performances, or just not their past performances. I mean, just without a thought. Like, I'm not really being harsh on Gaikwad here, but Gaikwad has played 9 or 10 T20Is, which, okay, yeah, he's done very well for Chennai in the IPL, but then you're like, is T20I is the best format for him? Or would India rather, like, even in the long term, would India rather benefit with having a Shaw in the side? So, I just hope that, because these chances are so rare, that you just hope that the selectors, they know, okay, which player to get into which format. And because there's so much of talent, and it's very easy to be like, okay, Gaikwad has done well in the IPL, uh, you can get him into the side for the T20Is. He has a strike rate of 123, which, you're like, okay, he's done well, but is this the best format for him? So I just feel that sometimes there's a case of like mixing up the formats. You think that, okay, if one player does well in ODIs, he can do well in T20Is also. That's not always the case. Gambhir recently, like during the post match show, India Pakistan, he was talking about how T20Is is tougher, and not necessarily a player good in ODIs can be a good T20I player also. So, it's just that whole thing that going forward, what do the selectors see is the plan for India in T20Is, what kind of players they want, and then act it accordingly. Like, I hope that's the case.
Yep, let's hope so. Just one final point on that as well. We'll go back to Prithvi Shaw as well. Maybe he needs to stop making those Instagram reels with Shikhar Dhawan and just stick to the cricket, right? I mean, he's
That Kala Chashma one was really nice, though, with
but he
no
can't.
Shaw, but Shaw.
Shikhar Dhawan's a
Yeah,
brilliant dancer. Prithvi Shaw
yeah.
isn't. He's not natural. I don't know. But anyway,
I've not seen much of Shaw's
Shaw, well, for a
reels,
while, I mean,
unfortunately.
on those tours of Sri Lanka, like I mentioned, and a couple of others, him and Shikhar were going for it together in those reels and stuff. So, if you want to look, if you've not seen them, head to Shikhar Dhawan's
I
Insta
will.
and Prithvi Shaw and have a look. Scroll back a little while and see what his moves are like and what his fashion sense is like as well. The big sort of
I have seen,
it's like a
yeah.
throwback to the 90s hip hop scene, isn't it? With all those baggy t-shirts
Yeah.
and the baseball caps and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't quite go well with the police wala mustache and all
Yeah.
that. But anyway, he's got his own fashion sense and we should respect that. Right, we're going to chat more Asia Cup in just a second. Before we do, if you love cricket and you want to hear more, then head over to the 99.94 app. You can hear all our podcasts and our commentary, which we'll have more of as well. We're the home of cricket audio online. We're going to be adding lots of new shows and covering series as well. And the best way to follow us is via our app, 99.94. You can also find us on YouTube and via your usual podcast provider as well. Right, Asia Cup, India through to the Super Fours, as we mentioned on the previous episode. Regulation stuff really against Hong Kong, although it was more of a challenge with the ball than we thought. We're not going to go back down that match's route. We're going to look forward. And it's probably going to be India Pakistan. At the time of recording this episode, we don't know if Hong Kong have beaten Pakistan or not. Could happen. You never know. They did all right against India, didn't they, in certain
Yeah.
aspects? And if it wasn't for Sky at the back end of the innings, and who knows what India would have got? Maybe 150, 160, and Hong Kong ended up 152 in the end, with Avesh Khan expensive, Arshdeep Singh expensive. So you never know, but you'd expect Pakistan to get through that one. So India versus Pakistan again on Sunday. And just briefly, I mean, we'd done an India-Pakistan episode before the tournament started. We talked about all the players and the makeups of the side and things like that. Firstly, do you think India will make any changes to their side from the Hong Kong side? So obviously Hardik Pandya will come back in. Rishabh Pant to go out, you think?
I think that would be the way. I would want KL Rahul to be bench, but I don't think that's happening. I think Rishabh Pant will go out. If that happens, I think probably that will show what India are thinking for looking ahead to the T20 World Cup also. Um, with the bowling, there will be a change. Hoping there is a change with Avesh Khan, because in a pressure situation, you need experience. And as you had mentioned previously, I think Ashwin should come into the side, because last match India Pakistan was close, and it somehow always boils down to nerves in India Pakistan. Avesh Khan has got a lot of chances, not really been able to perform as expected. So I would bench him, and yeah, either get in Bishnoi or Ashwin. I think Ashwin more stilted in Ashwin's favor.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. And look, if you're listening, selection committee, if you're listening to us, Rohit Sharma, Rahul Dravid, which you're probably not, but if there are people who can pass this on to them, please give Rishabh Pant a chance at the top of the order. He deserves it. I think him up against Naseem Shah at the start would be a fascinating battle, and
Yeah.
it could go one of two ways. But Pant's going to attack, and he should be told to attack. He should be given license to attack, especially with that comfort, I suppose, of Kohli coming in at 3 and able to do the job at the top of the order to rebuild if they lose an early wicket, or just carry on if Rishabh Pant builds the platform as well. So I'd love to see that. It probably isn't going to happen. You're right. Probably going to stick with Rahul. Rishabh will probably miss out for
Hmm.
Hardik, and then maybe Ashwin for Avesh. That's the way we see things going. We talked about it in depth on the previous episode as well, about how they should go going forward with their selection. So we look forward to that match. And just before we go, a quick message to everybody in Pakistan. We of course saw the devastating floods that happened there recently. 33 million people displaced. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi sending out a note last week as well on Twitter, just wishing the people well and hoping that they can get a full recovery over there as well. So we wish everyone in Pakistan, if there is anyone listening from over there, just all the best. And I hope that the rebuilding job isn't too painful, and we hope that you can get your lives underway as soon as possible. And it kind of puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Because Pakistan
Yeah.
heading into a match against India at the Asia Cup, we talk about life and death. It's not really. It's a game of
Yeah.
cricket, isn't it? This puts it into perspective, right?
Yeah, it's just become a war. Even the words that were used in the last match, rivalry, war, and all, it's not really a war. It's just a sport, and no matter who loses, there have been a lot of overreactions from both teams, both sides, like the fans of both countries in the past. Uh, but it's just a sport game. Enjoy it as a sport, and yeah, it puts things into perspective. And I hope
It's a game, but we want to
just
win, right?
yeah, take the joy from the game.
We
But
still
yeah,
want to
I
win.
hope India
We
wins.
still want to win.
Yeah.
And I'm predicting another India victory. Is this going to be one of your, what did you predict? 3-0. They're going to play 3 times, including the final. 2 easy wins and a close one. Well, we've had the close one.
We've had the close one. Hoping easy win,
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
but not too easy. Not too easy because then it gets boring. India Pakistan, you want some kind of excitement there.
I'd take the easy win.
But not a very close win. Not a very close win. Like a okay,
I,
decent
I
enough.
would take the
Like
easy win. Don't worry about that. So, well, fingers crossed that India can do it once again. Even if they don't, they've obviously still got the opportunity to get through to the final. They'll be playing Afghanistan and Sri Lanka now. Bangladesh
mm,
out of the competition after being beaten by Sri Lanka. So that'll be interesting as well. Bangladesh, with all this hype in recent years,
close match
close
yesterday with
match, but
so
look,
much of banter and
I have banter with,
uh
I know a couple of Bangladesh cricket fans who've been
yeah,
giving me stick about, oh, we're getting better, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I mean, one of them predicted that they're going to get to the semi-finals of the 2019 ODI World Cup, and they're a long way off that in the end. And it's just, look, they beat people at home in their conditions,
yeah,
but on the big stage, they're still a long way off, aren't they, in terms of just as an overall side. They've
yeah,
got some really exciting players, but they just haven't clicked. So we'll see how all those games go. We'll be back to talk India Pakistan after that particular match has taken place on Sunday. If indeed it is India, it could be India Hong Kong. We don't know at the time of recording this podcast. So we'll just wait and see what happens in that Pakistan Hong Kong game in the final group game of that stage before the Super Fours. But that's all we've got time for this time. Thank you very much for listening. Remember to download our app and subscribe to us, and get in touch if you've got any comments. But thanks for listening, and goodbye.